Strain it, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic cords of memory stretching from every battlefield. Yorktown, Lexington, Concord, Fort McHenry, and patriot graves to every living heart and hearthstone all over this broad land will yet swell the chorus of the Union, when again, touched as they surely will be by the better angels of our nature. Remember what you guys had and what you're about to destroy. That's it. You're going, right? You're going, you're going. Gonna stop him?
Yes.
Ready to pick up the rifles?
Yeah. Watch the video first.
Good. You'll watch the video first. You sure?
Yeah.
This is how it felt in March of 1861. Nobody other than a few warhawks really wanted to do this. Lincoln didn't want to do this. Now go back to it. How are you going to stop them? How are you going to stop them from leaving? Who here knows where MacDill Air Force Base is? Who here knows that MacDill Air Force Base is in Florida? Okay. For everybody else, MacDill Air Force Base is in Florida.
Oh, wait.
Yeah. It's right over here, south of Tampa.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, I did. I really did.
Okay, so what Air Force?
Air Force? I was in Tampa. He said,
What Air Force is it? Is it the Tampa Air Force?
United States.
What? The United States Air Force. It's not the Tampa Air Force. It's not the Florida Air Force. It's the Tampa Air Force. I mean, it's the United States Air Force, right? What's its purpose?
The United States.
To protect the United States. Well, let's imagine that we just do all of a sudden what they did. Let's imagine what, okay, we don't want President Trump to be our leaders and everything we stand for, and we secede. We're now our own country. Florida. Just kidding. Do you want a foreign country operating right here in our downtown?
No.
No, sir.
Wait,
Where do you go?
That's the United States Air Force. It's not the Florida Air Force. It's not the Tampa Air Force. And I guarantee you that there's an awful lot of men and women on that base who aren't Floridians. They're from all over the country. You with me? So, where do you live in South Carolina?
Charleston.
You live right in Charleston, so you should know exactly what I'm talking about. See, Kylie can see this every single day. She can see what? Fort Sumter, with a big American flag on it. Kylie, the flag of the country you left. How do you feel about another country having a base, look at this, guys, right at the mouth of your harbor?
Uncomfortable.
Exactly. Think about it. Imagine if, I don't know, the Russians controlled Fort DeSoto down here. Would that make you feel good?
No.
I'm not comparing the United States to the Russians, but you get the idea. Here's downtown Charleston right here. Fort Sumter's on an island, right at the entrance to all of Charleston Harbor. Now, before 1860, of course you wanted it there, Kylie. That's protect, you know, like from pirates. Pirates aren't going to raid Charleston with a fort right there. And certainly during the War of 1812, yeah, just try it, you say to the British. Right? You all remember how they, bombarded Fort McHenry and burned Washington, D.C. Ain't going to burn Charleston as long as Fort Sumter's there. Okay, but Fort Sumter has United States forces. There are men in Fort Sumter from another country over there. You want them to leave? You guys want to evacuate Fort Sumter? I am giving them every single chance. I want it really clear with what's about to happen that I am giving them every single chance to back down.
Yeah.
And now it is too late. You have now handed it over. You cannot stop what's about to happen now. You can't. Abraham Lincoln took the same tactic that some of you have taken. Not you, but some of you, in that he didn't want to go to war. I don't want to go to war. But he wasn't about to give in the fort. So in April of 1861, he hasn't left, he decides to resupply it. You know, because they're running low on food. It's our fort. You can't leave, Kylie. That's illegal. This fort is still ours. You cannot leave. And I'm going to give the men food. And those men who need a rest or a break, I'm going to take them off and put new men in there. This is what we do with our forts. You can't leave. The choice is also out of your hands now. Because fellow South Carolinians are now putting guns, cannon and others, all around and aiming it at the fort. I just want to know, Kylie, if you want to join them. So you're not going to take up any guns to attack Fort Sumter?
I mean, if like they
Just so you know, I don't want an explanation. No, okay. Sorry, I don't have time. I don't mean to cut you off, but as you'll see, it's not a big deal. I mean, it's a massive deal for everybody else, but not for Kylie. There's so many stories I wish I had time to tell you. Like this one I'm going to make really, really short. It's such a good story about how the commander of the fort had been a teacher before this. He taught at Virginia Military Institute. I think, don't hold me to where he taught. The man, the South Carolinian, who gave the order to fire on the fort. No way, Lincoln, you ain't resupplying this fort. No, that ain't gonna happen. That ain't gonna happen. Was his student. The Civil War was literally started when a student fired on his teacher. There are thousands of stories like this. I'll tell you a few. See, Kylie, it really wouldn't matter what you had done because I wouldn't even roll the dice. Because as the South Carolinians bombarded Fort Sumter, and you can see the flames begin, and the Union commander, the United States commander, raised the flag of surrender, nobody died. I'm going to be using a lot of dice tomorrow. More than I ever have. But no one died today. Nobody died at Fort Sumter. The only casualty was a horse. But to continue on with this weird, weird story, as soon as the white flag went up, do you know what the South Carolinians did? You know what they did to the people on the fort? They rushed to the fort and helped them put out the fires.
Aww.
We're all Americans.
It's like brother.
Yet, it is exact. What do you think they call it? Wonderful, Reagan. This is brother against brother. I mean, you guys are moving around the country. Any of you move from north to south? Right? It happens all the time. How many of you living here today in Florida have relatives up north? Yeah, imagine if you had to shoot them. That's what we're talking about. And now, Bennett, is your real moment of truth. See, if you had said, I don't know, Mr. K, I'm a Virginian, I don't know if I can really say that. At this moment, I then would have said, all right, who wants to volunteer? I'm not going to call for volunteers today. I don't have time to write your names down. Tomorrow, you will volunteer with your feet. The guns will be in the class. You'll walk up and you'll grab a rifle. And then we'll start. And I'll just get the names down then. That's what we'll do tomorrow. But historically, after this, Abraham Lincoln called for volunteers. And the first man they called for was a man you've heard of before. His name, Robert E.
I
Lee.
knew it.
You know some stuff about Robert E. Lee. You know that he was in the Mexican War. You know that he actually, Colonel Robert E. Lee, is the guy who took down John Brown. But what you probably don't know is that he was offered the position of the Commander-in-Chief of the United States Army first. Secretary of War, General Winfield Scott, ordered Robert E. Lee into his office. Colonel, I have good news. Remind yourself how long he's been a member of the armed forces. He's a career man, right? I have the greatest offer ever for you, Colonel Lee. We'd like to promote you to General in charge of the Army. In charge of the entire United States Army. Who would not jump at that chance? Be the general in charge of the whole thing. There was only one problem. Robert E. Lee did not immediately go, oh yeah, absolutely. Really? You're going to give up? Well, why was he thinking about it? Because Bennett's fellow Virginians had finally had enough. They realized when Abraham Lincoln, remember, if you're still in the United States, Bennett, when Abraham Lincoln calls for volunteers, he's asking you to attack him. Well, Southerners can't fire on Southerners. And Robert E. Lee turned to the general and said, I'm sorry, sir. I cannot give orders to invade my home state. He was from Virginia. I can't do it. And he resigned his commission forever. And he went home, took off his uniform and put on a business suit. And went home to Virginia. Don't worry, you guys, Jefferson Davis will recruit him pretty quickly. Fascinating story of Robert E. Lee. And that now finally explains our map, doesn't it? Oops, this map. Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Arkansas, after Fort Sumter. No way, Lincoln. I ain't firing on my fellow Southerners. I'm not volunteering. No. Out we go. Now there's 11 states in the Confederacy. 11 of them. Look at them all. Look at the size of all that land. Heck, Texas is bigger than all of them combined. Practically. What about you, Roy? What about you, Reagan? How about Maryland?
No.
How about Maryland?
No.
Shut up, I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear. I don't care, I don't want to hear you. I'm not being mean. I'm being historically accurate. Do you two know you're the most important people in this room?
Why is that?
You don't have any idea?
DC.
Do you guys understand why they are so important? What do you mean, DC?
We're right by it. We are the border state between DC and Virginia.
See how much you don't get? Do you see how you almost lost the war? If Roy had said yes, and Reagan, if they had said, yeah, we're going to leave with the rest of them, you lose. You lose if they say yes. If tomorrow you change your mind and you come in and say, all right, Mr. K, we're out of here, you lose. Why do you lose? Because your capital is right here. How does Abraham Lincoln go to work if his capital's in the other country? Maryland is by far the most important state in this entire war. You two are the most important people the entire time. We cannot have you leave. So why did I tell him to shut up? Because that's exactly what Lincoln did. Lincoln invaded Baltimore with a regiment, surrounded the Baltimore legislature, and prevented them from voting. Because he knew if they voted, they lost the war. Now, Southerners, of course, called him a tyrant immediately. You can't do this. Northerners, of course, said it's right there in the Constitution, in Article 1, that you can declare martial law. He declared martial law. Sorry, you guys can't vote. You can't leave, because if you leave, we lose. And this is now our last irony. What is Frederick Douglass thinking right now? What is every African-American slave or free black thinking? Finally, the war is here! Finally, the slaves will be set free. But you can't free the slaves. Roy, what are you going to do if they free your slaves? You're leaving, aren't you? You free his slaves, they're leaving. So if you're thinking, all right, I love John Brown, we're going to free the slaves, and we're going to free the slaves. Don't you dare free the slaves. Because if you free the slaves, you lose Maryland. You lose Maryland, you lose the war. So black people, we don't want you involved in the war. That was the first thing that happened. Very beginning of the war, they said, look, this is a white man's fight. We can't. We can't. If we try to free the slaves, Maryland's going to lose. Maryland loses. Out we go. How frustrated Frederick Douglass was. And everybody. Does that mean you can never, I don't know, I can never say never. Roy, Reagan, come sit over here, please. Uh-huh. So, anything goes. You've already seen Abraham Lincoln prevent freedom of speech by declaring martial law. You are now, just like in the Revolution, able to do whatever you want. Obviously, no real violence. Be as creative as you want. You have no idea what's coming next. I don't mean to be melodramatic on you. But do you see how I really broke it down? We have to understand that anything could happen here. Anything. Tomorrow, I'll give you one last yee-haw, and then I'll ask you to pick up your guns. Yes, sir.
Didn't Lincoln also suspend habeas corpus?
Yeah, that's what I mean by declaring martial law.
Oh, okay.
Good luck. Have a nice day. Make sure you watch the video. Tomorrow, war.
I wanna go. I'm gonna build a wall.
I said creative, not stupid.